Hey guys, today I want to talk about how to better determine the battery life remaining when you're using a Bosch Purion display. This topic's a little bit dated, but as late as last week, and this is early spring 2025, I was riding with someone who had a Bosch Purion display on their bike, and they were unable to determine how much battery life they had remaining other than looking at the bars on the battery. Now, looking at the bars remaining on the battery will give you a rough idea of how much battery life you have remaining, but it's in 20% increments, meaning that if you have 3 bars showing, you have somewhere between basically 41% to 60% of the battery remaining. And in a lot of instances, particularly if you're trying to decide whether you're going to terminate the ride or take an extra long loop, you really don't have enough information to know how much battery you have remaining. But there is a process using different functions on the Bosch Purion display, which will give you a much better idea of how much battery life you have remaining on your bike. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. So let's get into it, guys. So here is a Bosch Purion display, and from the beginning of 2nd generation up through the 4th generation of Bosch bikes, this was used on the bikes to control the motor. This is used to basically, these up and down functions allow you to determine which power mode you're in. There's an on-off button. When you turn it on, it shows that when you mash that plus button, you're going up. When you mash it, you're going down. And the only indication of the battery is right here where it shows the bars remaining on the battery. Now, what I'm showing here, if you mash it at the same time, the first thing it'll give you the trip mileage. The next thing, it'll give you the total mileage on the bike. This bike has 7,737 miles in total on the motor. And if you mash it here, it shows the range. And because I've not ridden the bike since I turned it on, it doesn't give me any indication of the range. If I do it again, it'll go back to the off state. So if you use the battery function in addition to the range function, and you have a little bit of knowledge and experience of how the two interrelate, you can get a much better idea of how much remaining life you have on your battery. Now I'm going to go out and ride this bike, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here I go. I'm out here on my bike, and I'm looking down at my Bosch Purion display. As you can see, I'm in the eco mode, just riding around in my cul-de-sac. And the only indication I have as to the battery life remaining, looking at the battery indicator on the screen right there, I have 3 bars. Now here I've stopped the bike, and what I'm going to do here is mash and hold the walk button, and then mash the minus button. And the first thing I get is the trip mileage. The next thing I get is the total mileage on the bike. And the next thing I get is the estimated range, which shows I have 20 miles. Now what that's doing, or what this range will allow you to do, is to figure out basically how much battery life you have, although you really don't know the battery life. But I know from experience that based on 3 bars and 20 miles of range that I have the high end so I'm closer to the 69% than I am to the 41%. And, starting back riding the bike, what I know from, once again, from riding the bike, that range will vary. If I start going up a hill, it'll eat into the range pretty quickly, but then as I go down a hill, it'll give back some of the range. So it's not really an incredibly precise, and I never really know the exact battery percentage, but I have a relatively good idea. And a lot of times when I'm riding the bike and I get down to 2 bars and say, under 10 miles, a lot of times the actual range I have is somewhere between the range that's actually showing on the Purion display and half of that amount. And it varies on all sorts of factors: the weather, you know, how hilly or flat the riding is, you know, how hard I'm riding the bike or fast I'm riding the bike, just a lot of things. But at least you have some idea. Well, there you have it. It's not the greatest system in the world, but if you use the remaining range in conjunction with the bars on the battery, you have a much better idea of how much battery life you have remaining if you're using the Purion display. So I hope I've given you something to think about, and I'll see you guys at the top.